So we're going to demonstrate online maintenance. We're going to start with the SENR. So let me pull up test. We have a test version of CALPADS. So just please bear with me. So you all should be seeing CALPADS. All right, great. We're logged in. We have a self-paced for basics of CALPADS. It has navigation. And I'm not going to walk through step by step. So I just want to make sure your expectations are not that. If you need step by step how to get to certain locations in CALPADS, please review the self-paced for CALPADS basics. We're going to do very little navigation. But one element of that is you begin in online maintenance at the student data maintenance screen, right? And it allows you to search for a student 3 different ways. If I type in the SSID, it takes me to the student's records. I can do a demographic search using a demographic lookup by populating these fields. And then if I need a group of students, I could populate the school and the grade and then a date range or just select currently enrolled, and then I get a group of students, right? And so I could look for students in specific grades at schools or classes. I could get a group. When you have a new student enrolled, you first could do a search to see if the student has ever been in a California public school before. And so you take the information you have, and the more information you have, the better. And you see if there's a match. So I don't have one. Now I have to do an advanced search, right? So request SSID, if you see the button, is an advanced search as well. The data that I populated is in there, and if I knew the birth state, I could add that as well. So the system found 4 results. Please scroll down to review the results. So there's 4 different versions of some kid named Marshmallow. Certainly, it looks like 3 records are the same here because of the local ID, but one is different. So how would I choose between the student, right? I have Oakland Training, Castlemont High, Berkeley Unified, Berkeley Unified. Same birth date, same name. How would I identify my student? Thank you, Gloria. The student information info would be very useful. Gina tells you to research the birth date. But what if the birth date's the same? Check each SSID for demographic information that matches the student. Great, Lori, that's the most concise. Joanne, that is the key that really helps, right? I often go to the parent name. Students may have the same name, the same birth date. They could even, and if you have the same name and birth date, you could even be the same reported race and ethnicity, right? But how often are the parents' name going to be the same? But you do have to go into the student's demographic record and compare, right? You look in CALPADS, you select the student's demographic records, and you look at them. You go to demographics and you compare, right? And that's why we complete the student's profile so that we can do those type of things. We have a clear picture of the student. But for the sake of demonstration, we are going to create a new SSID, right? And so we're going to have a new Marshmallow. Okay, so I have a state account, and so I have to select where the student is going to be enrolled. This is default a relationship. You'll never have to select reporting LEA, but you will have to select the school of attendance. So we said we have a 2003, that kid would be in high school. So let's find just a high school in this thing. And so certainly all the information that I'm fudging, you'd be populating, right? Okay, so when you're selecting the enrollment status, right, you want to know, most often it's going to be primary enrollment, right? If you're providing the majority of the instruction or the student services related to the IEP, that's a primary enrollment. A secondary enrollment is when you're providing supplemental instruction. So the student's receiving the majority of the instruction somewhere else, and you're providing the school is providing, right? Because you're the LEA. So like a sixth grader taking eighth grade math at the middle school would be an example of a secondary enrollment. Short-term enrollment, enrollment status 30, is for enrollment periods of 30 days or less, and they're only available at education option schools. Education option schools, usually a school, usually the county offices have them, some of the districts. They're like continuation schools, community day schools, juvenile justice schools are considered that, right? And so you can get an error saying the school is not available to use this status. You can't. It's only for those instances. Now, specialized services is a retired code. It's only in online maintenance for historical updates. It's related to the CASE. It has nothing to do with special ed students or any other services. It's only related to the CASE. We don't test students in the CASE anymore. This code is defunct. Never use it. Now, enrollment status 50 is new this year, and there's only 2 scenarios in which it should be used. And if I'm not correct, Kyron will correct me. It's only used for private school students receiving special ed services. These students only come to public school to receive special ed services, but they are enrolled in private schools. The other scenario is foreign exchange students.
And you may refer to Flash 156 for more details on that 50 ADA enrollment.
Okay, and then the grade level is easy, right? Online maintenance, you just select it, but if you're submitting data in a file, the grade level has to be mapped. So if you have pre-K students or TK students, right, transitional kindergarten students, make sure that your student information system maps those students to kindergarten. Some TK programs have a grade level of preschool or TK. CALPADS does not have a TK grade level. TK is a program. Kyron will talk about that later, but they have to be enrolled as kindergarten. So if you're submitting data in a file, make sure you do that mapping. UE, ungraded elementary and ungraded secondary have been retired. Do not use those. If you have an ungraded secondary student, you use grade level 12. If you have a UE student, use the most appropriate grade level to describe that student, right? It's curriculum level. So the enrollment start date, right, is very important. And we'll just use a random day. CALPADS will take any calendar day, even Sunday the 1st. That's probably not practical, right? But CALPADS will take any day. Then school transfer codes. If you have a transfer, you have to say what kind of category it is, right? Whether it's program improvement, school of choice option, district of choice transfer, right? If you have a transfer code or a transfer like a formal inter-district transfer agreement, you also have to populate then the district of geographic residence. And that's just where the student would be attending school based on their boundaries. And then all these other fields are related to exits, all these other indicators with the exception of one, and that's post-secondary transition status. So any student that's special ed and 16 years and over has to have this populated. The only exception is this one, where we're enrolling a student for the first time receiving a new SSID. There are no program information for this student. We do not know if the student's in special ed, so I don't have to populate anything. But if you're doing an enrollment update for a student that was in special ed last year, or for whatever reason you're submitting an SENR file, even if you're exiting, this post-secondary transition status indicator must be populated. So after we validate and do our checks, we see the validation is successful, we can go ahead and post the enrollment. All right, great. The enrollment's posted, so let's go back and review. So let's review a few things. Why do we say do your due diligence when requesting SSIDs? When we were looking at the results for our request, our enrollment, we had 4 different students, right? Same name, same birth date. Why did we say before requesting a new SSID, take your time, review? Right, mismatches cause anomalies. And anomalies, if you don't know what a mid-anomaly is, Beth helps you out. It's a duplication of the student record in the system. A single student has multiple records. Again, Beth emphasizes 1 record for each student. And Gloria, you're right, duplications are bad because that requires manual work on your behalf to eradicate the duplications. You can't do it in a mass file upload. Requesting SSIDs for students who have already been assigned SSIDs creates MIDs. You have 1 kid, clearly 1 kid, and you have 3 records for that kid. So what date does ownership of an SSID begin? First day they are in your school, the date of enrollment, enrollment at your district. So you guys know it. Great. We don't have to belabor the point.